4 NFL best bets for week 10 Sunday action, and we have one in every time slot. Our first player prop is going to be looking at the Munich, Germany game between the Giants and the Panthers. 1 p.m., Chiefs versus Broncos. I got to pick against the spread. 425, Eagles versus Cowboys. We're going to look at another player prop, and we're going to wrap it all up with a pick on the total for Sunday Night Football between the Lions and the Texans. Now, we're coming off a straight cash winner from Thursday Night Football as we took Lamar Jackson over 1.5 passing touchdowns. And the man is so brilliant. He ended with 4. So glad we backed him on the futures market from our last video. And if you're stumbling onto this page for the first time and you weren't with us for our pick on Lamar Jackson, welcome. My name is Peter Apple, and this is the home for all of my NFL picks moving forward. And I'm going for my 4th straight profitable season. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button as well. And make sure in the comment section below, let me know what you're on for Week 10 NFL Sunday action. I'll be sure to answer all the comments, just like I always do. A reminder that this channel is sponsored by BetMGM. It is the perfect time to use promo code JustGridiron for a first bet offer up to $1,500. Deposit at least $10, and if you lose your first wager on BetMGM after using code JustGridiron, you'll get it all back up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Don't just leave these free offers on the table. However, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. We'll go in chronological order in terms of when the games are played. So we'll start with my favorite player prop in the Germany game between the Giants and the Panthers. This one's going to make you squirm. Giants are favorites of nearly a touchdown. It's implied that they're going to get a lead, run the clock out, and the Panthers don't have a good run defense at all. Alvin Kamara is coming off an incredible game where he had 150 rushing yards or something like that against these Panthers. All these factors have led to a wildly inflated line for Tyrone Tracy. Now, the Panthers truly have a terrible run defense. They rank 31st, just reading these off my notes, 31st in rush EPA, allowed the most rushing yards to running backs this season. Sounds horrifying to take an under, right? But we have to remember, it's all about the number. The Panthers have played 9 games this year, yet only in 5 of them has the starter gone over 79.5 rushing yards, and 2 of those were from Alvin Kamara. The other teams to go over this were the Falcons' backfield. Chase Brown had exactly 80 yards for the Bengals, and J.K. Dobbins went wild. But even when in a blowout against the Bears, when the Bears crushed them, Swift finished with 73 yards on 21 carries. In a 40-7 Commanders destroyance. Is destroyance a word? I don't know. But Brian Robinson had 71 yards. The Broncos won by 14. Neither running back had more than 47 yards. And the Panthers actually beat the Raiders, and Zamir White didn't break 35 yards. Tyrone Tracy is a fine running back, but he's just not in the same breath as those others who went over this line. This line also implies that he is the clear lead back and really the only true rushing threat when he just isn't. Singletary had 7 carries last week. Daniel Jones had 7 carries last week, and both of them average more yards per carry than Tyrone Tracy. Now, Tracy has been under this line in 7 of his 9 games last year, but granted, he became the starter in week 5, but he's still under this line in 3 of those 5 games since he became the starter. And now, this is a great matchup for him, but this is a line for a bona fide starter who is an elite talent. Tracy is not only not a bona fide starter, but I'm not sold he's an elite talent. Even when we look at fantasy football projections, which are often inflated, the highest projection I can find on him is just 77 yards. I just don't think the usage is going to be there for him enough to get to this number. And my model on Rithmm backs this play with a 73.6% chance of him staying under 74.5 rushing yards, projecting him for just 49.3. So give me Tyrone Tracy Jr. of the New York Giants under 79.5 rushing yards, which is now playable down to 72.5. For our next pick, we're going to travel to Kansas City for a divisional matchup between the Denver Broncos and the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs are still undefeated and are widely regarded as one of the best teams in the NFL, right? We just bet on their Super Bowl odds a few weeks ago. Once playoff time comes, I'm not betting against Mahomes. This team is still the Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs. They're still awesome. However, despite their dominance in the win column, just 4-3-1 against the spread. And the Chiefs certainly know how to close out games. They know how to win it, but they're not consistently overwhelming their opponents. The Chiefs have failed to cover in all 4 games this year when the spread has been 6.5 or more this season. November 4th against the Bucks, we remember 30-24 overtime win. October 27th against the Raiders, 27-20. September 29th against the Chargers, score was 17-10. And September 15th against the Bengals, score was 26-25 when they were 6.5-point favorites. Now they're headed into a battle with one of the best defenses in the NFL with a spread of 8 points. And this is just a really good spot for the Broncos, who are playing the Chiefs off a short week, and it was an overtime thriller on Monday Night Football. The Broncos were just blown out by the Ravens this past weekend, which Baltimore tends to do to a lot of teams. I mean, Lamar Jackson's playing at an MVP level, best running back in the league in Derrick Henry, and it's just impossible to stop the Ravens right now, who rank second in EPA per play compared to the Chiefs, who rank ninth in EPA per play on offense. I think a big factor to watch this week is the health of Patrick Mahomes' ankle. Briefly left Monday's game after kind of that awkward landing. If we remember, I got scared for our Super Bowl futures, but sparking concerns over a potentially serious injury. Although those kind of initial big time fears have subsided, right? He should be fine, but a lingering ankle injury is definitely going to hamper his mobility, which is the key to the game and his superhuman ability to evading pressure. And I think that's really important in this matchup. So the lack of that, I don't think he's going to be that successful, especially against this Broncos defense that ranks 8th in pressure rate and is tied for 2nd in sacks. While the Chiefs have a strong offensive line, a less mobile Mahomes could be vulnerable to Denver's pass rush. Overall, the Broncos rank 3rd in EPA per play on defense and have all the tools to be able to slow down the Chiefs' air attack and just keep things on the ground. Now, on the offensive side, the Denver has definitely shown some flashes, scoring 20 or more points in 5 of their 9 games this season. They're going to face a Chiefs defense that is definitely good, 10th in overall defensive EPA per play, 5th in EPA per rush attempt. They definitely excel against the run. However, Kansas City has shown vulnerability through the air, ranking 14th in EPA per play against passing attacks. The Broncos rank 1st in pass block win rate and have allowed the 6th lowest pressure rate. So Bo Nix should be able to create chunk plays outside the pocket, and utilize his mobility to extend drives and pick up first downs. I know I threw a lot of numbers at you, but the main crux of it is, while the Chiefs are formidable against the run, they haven't encountered a quarterback with mobility like Bo Nix has since they faced Lamar Jackson, who gained over 100 yards rushing. We also have a system on Denver that is one of my favorites. When you have an underdog between 1 to 9 points, when the total is between 40.5 and 51, and the underdog is coming off a 21-point loss, I know it's a lot of factors, but it's happened a lot. The underdog is 196, 113, and 6, winning at a 63.4% rate. Underdogs in general, off a 20-point loss, 55% against the spread. Sean Payton, as an underdog of 7 or more in his career, 9-4 against the spread. And the cherry on top, my model on Rithmm makes the Broncos +6. That's the true line, giving us a 54.4% chance of covering +7.5. But 8 is a key number, and I jumped on that. And remember, if you want to download Rithmm, phenomenal. I use it. My model's on there, their model as well, AI backed, back tested with really good ROI numbers. Make sure to use the link in the episode description or the description of this YouTube video to access your 7-day free trial to build your own model or just use their model. Highly, highly recommend just trying it out. Try the 7-day free trial. If you don't like it, cancel, but highly recommend that you might continue after that 7-day free trial. So for our next pick, we're going to travel to Dallas for another divisional matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. I had a really tough time pricing this game from a side or the total perspective. Dak has been okay, so it's hard to price between, right, the difference between him and Cooper Rush, and which kind of makes it difficult to price a total on this game. But one thing I feel really confident in is the Cowboys have found their starting running back. And I don't think this low of a line for Rico Dowdle will be here for the rest of the season, as I think he's the starting running back now. Because Zeke Elliott was benched last week due to disciplinary reasons, but now Mike McCarthy apparently said he's having a good week. That's, and I quote, if the Cowboys decide to give him a bunch of carries in this game, McCarthy should be fired on Monday. Zeke is averaging 3.1 yards per carry, and if you've watched him this year, you don't need my stats to tell you that he's washed. And then behind him is Dalvin Cook. I mean, come on. And now this is gambling at the end of the day. And I'm gambling that the Cowboys are going to give Rico Dowdle the starting reps, leading to 10 to 15 carries, most likely 12 to 14. He handled that well against Atlanta last week, 12 carries, 75 yards, 6.3 yards per carry. And in 3 games this season where he's had 10 or more carries, he's averaging 69.3 rushing yards per game. He's averaging 4.5 yards per carry this year, while his backups are the oldest and most washed running backs in all of football. He has a 12.5 carries line this week. Rico Dowdle does. And both Zeke and Dalvin Cook don't even have lines up, which only further legitimizes my feel that Dowdle is going to be the lead back in this game. And if he is the lead back, he's gone over this line easily every single time, like I said earlier. And if we look at the lead backs for the Cowboys against the Eagles, do you know the last time the lead back for the Cowboys didn't go over 42.5 rushing yards? Darren McFadden, January 1st, 2017, 28 rushing yards. The Eagles, now they're 15th in rushing EPA per play, 11th in rushing yards allowed, but this is a divisional game against teams that have seen each other plenty of times. Also, the Eagles have had 4 different linebackers pop up on the injury report. I think they're all going to play, but it's not 100% on that second half of the defense. Now, Dowdle has been over this line in 3 of his last 4 games in general, and the last time he had 12 carries against the Eagles was back in 2023, and he had 46 yards. My model on Rithmm also loves it, projecting him to finish with 65.7 yards, with an 83.3% chance of him going over 44.5 rushing yards. But I grabbed the over 42.5 rushing yards on BetMGM, but this is playable to 45.5. So give me Rico Dowdle over 42.5 rushing yards to win 1 unit. Now, if we remember last week, we took the under in Packers versus Lions, and we have another high total in a Lions game that is just too high. It's easy to look at this game and be tantalized by the return of Nico Collins, Jameson Williams from IR, and expect a shootout between these AFC and NFC contenders, especially with the weapons on each side. But this is, I think, it's going to be more of a defensive matchup. The Texans are averaging 22.3 points per game, ranking 17th. Is anyone kind of disappointed in this offense? They've failed to score 30 points outside of one time where they scored 41 against the Patriots. The offense has been clunky and not what many expect of CJ Stroud, certainly me, in his second season. The most shocking part of the Texans is their poor run game. And you might think, well, Joe Mixon is averaging over 100 yards per game, which looks nice on the surface, but the efficiency is not quite there. The Texans rank 28th in EPA per rush attempt and 28th in run block win rate. So even with a healthy Nico Collins, I have a hard time believing that the Texans are going to be able to successfully run the football against this elite Lions defense. I keep talking about it. The Lions are great because their offense is so good, but it's their defense that has been so good, which ranks 9th in EPA per rush attempt on defense and just acquired Zadarius Smith to bolster that unit. Then that leads to an even bigger concern with the Texans pass blocking against the Lions D line that ranks 12th in pressure rate and 5th in EPA per dropback on defense. The Lions get to the quarterback and do not give receivers space to get open, which is a huge problem factoring in the Texans offensive line ranking 28th in pass block win rate and dead last in pressure rate against. The Lions D-line has got to be salivating at this matchup. But on the other side, the Lions have a super efficient offense. They're ranked 4th in EPA per play and have attacked each game with tons of purpose. I mean, they're just so good. Last week against the Packers in a downpour, Lions ran the ball efficiently, didn't ask Jared Goff to do too much, attempted just 3 passes over 10 yards downfield. The Lions are the masters of taking what the defense gives them, and they have so many different ways to dissect a defense. And it's for this reason Lions have scored more than 40 points on 3 separate occasions and lead in points per game. But now I think they have one of their toughest tests of the season because the Texans, they're winning a lot of these games, I think, on the backs of their defense. The Texans defense ranks 7th in EPA per play, and it's not allowed more than 24 points in 6 straight games. And now the key for the Texans here, get to Jared Goff. But you don't have to blitz. When kept clean, Goff is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But under pressure, his completion percentage drops by 10 points, and his turnover-worthy plays percentages double. Luckily, the Texans excel in this department. 5th in pressure rate, 5th in sacks. The key, though, get pressure without blitzing. And while the Texans do blitz at the 8th highest rate, the defensive line is good enough to get to the quarterback without blitzing. And now another reason I love this play is both the Texans and the Lions are excellent at third down stops on defense. The Lions have the 29% third down conversion rate against, lowest in the league. Texans rank 10th, 33.3%. Getting off the field, forcing punts is going to decide this game. And with the total at 49, we just need a handful of third down stops to keep us below the number. Also, when we look at primetime games, right? Primetime unders, we all know all about them. But when you have a home dog, in a primetime game. The under is 99 and 60, 62% hit rate. We also have an outlier referee, right? I only bring you referee trends when it's an outlier. Bill Vinovich, outlier. 101.72 to the under, 58.4% hit rate with an average total in his games. Listen to this. 37.1 points. On top of it, my model on Rithmm makes the total 47, just like it did for Lions versus Packers. So I took the under 49 to win 1 unit, which is playable to 48.5. So if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button and also make sure to subscribe for more NFL picks for this season and beyond. And my Monday Night Football video is going to be out soon, so make sure to turn on post notifications so you get an alert when that is released. Let's go 4-0 on Sunday. Why not us?